Right,
Okay.
okay, it's recording.
Recording in progress.
Lovely.
So, where do we begin? Thank you for attending this Zoom session, 17th of November 2024. With
So what is it? Was it you wanted to? What was this?
Bobby Dazzler in the back there.
What's this? What are we chatting about for this one?
So, I think we were going to talk about our anxieties around certain aspects of how we've created what we have. How music is such a tool for release and Paul agrees. Yeah, peace.
Peace.
And how music's transformed our way of life, but also how the imposter syndrome can kick in now and again, as it probably does for a lot of artists who are wondering why they keep going.
Yeah.
Would you like to say anything about
what do you
what
want to
made
talk
you
about?
keep going, or what
do you
made
want?
you carry on?
What do you want to talk about first? Then there's a few things in there, isn't there?
I did for a few things. So, when you first started doing music, what was driving you forward? And when you realised you had that talent, what made you feel no matter what, you just had to do it, despite these anxieties and
well, I suppose
voices in your head?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd always been drawn to the guitar. My brother had a guitar. I shared a bedroom with him, and he had control of the record player in the bedroom. So he was always playing. He got me into stuff like Jimi Hendrix and Rush and early U2 kind of guitar kind of things, and Queen. Queen were like a big one as well. That's just when Queen were good up until about 1980. They had a great album called Live Killers. And I remember when I was young, I used to get a tennis racket and a bit of wool and connect it to a record box, pretending that's an amplifier. And I don't know, I just was drawn to it, and then but it's a very big paradox really, because I have real anxiety about playing live. Because I don't like being a center of attention or anything like that. But I suppose because I got confidence through playing guitar and and stuff, and people I was in bands with sort of like thought I was okay, that kind of made it okay. Plus, for a good 20 years of it, I was drinking before gigs.
Confidence.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I don't know if it's a higher power thing, because I got a guitar in January, got my first proper electric guitar. I got some money for my birthday, and I bought this really good, really nice Telecaster lookalike for about £100, £110, I think it was, in a local music shop that's not there anymore. That was in January '87. Literally February '87, I was in I was joyriding basically with a friend and a kind of girlfriend in the back, and crashed the car. And basically, long story short, the pub we went to, I was seen as this kind of like bastard who crashed the car and injured the girl in the back. So I stayed in from that point, because they weren't really friends. They were just people I kind of like fell in with. They were people from school and that, they weren't kind of, got on with them, but I didn't feel like we were properly connected. So anyway, because of this crash, it was quite traumatic really. I just stayed in with this new guitar and just played along to records, but I thought I was always a bit of a loner, and then the second higher power moment happened in the summer when I finished one college course, didn't know what I was going to do, and I just walked into this college enrollment place, and they said, this guy, first desk I went to, he said, "Do you want to join this course?" I said, yes, I do, please. He goes, right, come here tomorrow. And on that course, long story short, I met a couple of guys on the course, and they said, we know a couple of guys who are looking for a guitarist and a drummer, and we know a drummer, and you're a guitarist. Do you fancy trying out with them? And that was a real serendipitous moment, because like I said, I detached from the friendship groups I had. I didn't really have any friends, and suddenly I had this new friendship group. And but I always kind of thought I was kind of really only accepted because I was the guy who played guitar. Really, I wasn't kind of. It was probably wrong, I'm just very kind of depreciative about me. But it was always music that gave me the confidence to go along with these people, and it was always music that kind of made me confident around these people. Like, always
you did have an innate. You knew that you had that innate feeling that just.
I definitely, yeah. I mean, I really wanted to play guitar. Just really, it went from kind of like, I went from just what I was buying.
Gonna give Bobby. I'm so sorry. I'm going to give Bobby a stick because he just keeps on.
That's all right.
Whining. I'm going to give him something to shut him up. Good Lord. Oh. Okay. No. Sorry. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was around these people in this band people I'd never really go around with. They were kind of like, two of them are really good looking, sort of ex-neuromantic kind of people, and they're kind of like really good looking blokes, and kind of people I didn't feel worthy of hanging around with, kind of thing. And but they kind of accepted me because I played guitar and stuff, and that was it. I kind of, and then that was kind of my that friendship group. I kind of like was playing guitar a lot in different bands with different guys, and I felt a lot of the time I used to think, and I don't know if I was right or wrong, think, well, if I didn't play guitar, would these people be friends with me? But the guitar gave me confidence. When we were playing songs, and everybody was kind of, I say in awe. I was massively into Edge out of U2, so I had this delay pedal I used to put on far too much and play all this U2 stuff. And they're like, fucking hell, it's the Edge, I think because they've never come across someone with a delay pedal before.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, and that gave me confidence around them, and but I was always anxious playing gigs, but I always had that kind of excitement before gigs, like, let's fucking do it, let's do it. And we're like a gang. That's what I really liked. We were kind of like a couple of the bands I was in before we met, like 4-piece, 5-piece bands, but 4 or 5-piece bands. And a couple of times I just felt like a real gang. We were a real kind of us against, we used to go to the pub in Wickham, and there'd be all the other bands in Wickham in the corners drinking. We were trying to stare each other out and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I really like, the kind of gang mentality. I've always been like an introvert and underconfident. I always wanted to fit in, and being able to play the guitar made me fit into people, into a life where people kind of appreciate that. And then I had the byproduct of that, where we kind of were friends as well, and we socially went out together. But it was always the music that kind of gave me the confidence to interact, even when we weren't, in the rehearsal room together. It was just gave me.
You were doing it.
It kind of gave me the confidence to be around them, and I think they kind of, because I was the only guitarist, and I could play like quite okay. It kind of made them. I don't know if respect's the right word, but kind of, I felt I was up to their level. Without getting too deep, I always felt the world was here and I was there, but playing the guitar brought me up to that kind of an equal level with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That was my kind of armor. The guitar was my kind of like, my
shield of protection.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it was also my kind of Superman suit. It made me,
Yeah.
you know,
Super skill.
yeah. So
No, because I mean that was such a traumatic thing to have gone through, and then not
yeah, it
to be
was. I
able to
mean,
process it, you know.
the girl in the back of the car, she was injured quite badly, which she recovered from. But but my name was kind of mud at the pub we went to because of it, because I'd injured her and everything. And it just made me staying with this new guitar I literally bought a couple of weeks before, and it was I just stayed and played against, I was into the Smiths and U2. I just play along to those. I knew a few chords. My mate had taught me a year or two before that, and I had a chord book, but I would just play by ear, and just kind of, even if it wasn't right, it was just great playing against music, as escapism.
Yeah.
I was escaping in my bedroom with my guitar and music. I was just playing against it. I was just escaping.
Like a rock god.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then did you have that sort of like, you wanted to be like U2 or all the bands that you admired?
I mean,
Or
I definitely thought I want to be, do that for a living. And I got incredibly jealous. There was a guy in the same year at school as me, and uh, he joined a local Wickham band who were kind of like virtually they were doing things and virtually about to be signed. He joined them because their bass player left, and he came and he went off and became this kind of like professional musician touring the country in America and all stuff like that. And I was incredibly jealous of him.
no.
Absolutely incredibly jealous, and but my problem was I kind of lived in a kind of fantasy land really. I kind of expected, instead of like him, he went out and put himself about and joined this band. I was just expecting, a band to knock on my mum's front door and recruit me up, and that, I was just in the fantasy. I was half-assed about it. I did kind of like reply to a few NME adverts for guitarists and stuff like that. But
Yeah, I think the thing I'd like to speak about a little bit on the topic of the anxiety of, say, having that compulsion to go out and do something like these bands, they go out and do it, at a certain, I mean, obviously with our journey, we know we've just sort of bumbled along and done a few things. Nothing's been recorded in its entirety yet, apart from obviously just some demos. And that's cool. But I do feel this is where I feel sometimes there's been something that's held us back, if not for the fact that we had all this life stuff, right? So what is it then that is it an actual, would you say it's destiny that basically those people that, like your friend, just do the American tour, they're just, everything happens in one fell swoop, and they get snapped up and signed up and whatever, versus the people who are, having to work, put food on the table for their kids and whatever else that they go through, while they're still trying to fan these flames of their own desires to get into the music industry. But the other thing is, music industry is obviously, it's such a dicey world, isn't it? Because you don't want to be controlled. You want to do things your way. You can't get out there unless you've got a zillion followers. Because ultimately, if you're not out there doing the hard sell, how does it work?
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. That's the problem now with music. It's kind of, it's not about, you can have a really good song, but that's just not enough. It's all about image. It's all about, I read about these fairly well-known musicians and their record companies and that say you got to be on TikTok. You got to be putting these TikTok short stories. You got to keep feeding them. Throwing them all this kind of stuff, and that it just doesn't.
Doesn't float our boats.
doesn't interest me at all, because it's not.
Yeah.
It's not part of the creative it's creative, but it's not part of the creative process that we're passionate about. We make good.
Yeah.
I think we make good music, good songs together, and it's just not. I know for a fact, people wouldn't do anything with us because it's age. Oh, the cat's just coming soaking. Because the music's always been ageist, but especially now, anybody kind of over 30 is kind of like old.
So again, you're already losing because people do have that perception that you just cannot get ahead because of your age in the music industry.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of like
they want the other way around.
Exactly. They want young people. They're predominantly a big music base is young people. From I don't know 13 to 25. And in record companies want them to relate to someone in their kind of peer group. Really, you got your Olivia Rodrigo and all those kind of people who
Taylor Swifts and
all really, really young. And they, if Olivia Rodrigo is 50, completely different dynamic, and it's a shame. It's just a shame, but that's you got to think of it as music is a business.
That's fine because they're it's serving a purpose in their audience who loves that type of music. So obviously,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's where the big money is. You see, whereas us in our later years in life, there's not so big a demographic to the record company. There's not such a big demographic, but But then they forget there's music fans that are above 25. And it's just a shame that it's not about the song. You can have a really, really good song.
But again, I suppose half the battle is you have to invest in yourself. If you haven't got the funds to do that, it's sometimes just that much more of an uphill struggle because obviously you would have got your producers of the day that charge $250 plus and get your EP done in a certain amount of time. Both of us haven't had the disposable money to do those things, let alone just buy the latest speakers just to do our own little recordings at home, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean back in the day, this is a thing now. With the internet, everything is disposable, and the same goes with like music. They kind of, they want a record company wants an instant hit. It's not like the old days, like 30 years ago, where if you're in a band, you got like given a 2-year period or something to like release some singles, release an album, and then we'll go from there. And like bands like early U2, they were very much kind of underground band until sort of about 3 albums in.
Yeah, right.
And they were given time to grow, given time to grow because they were young. You would not have that now, and that's another sad part. Everything's instant. Success has got to be instant. Money's got to be instant. Paybacks, and they invest, because the record companies are the ones going to be investing in the recording and the marketing and the promotion, paying for all the stuff for touring and stuff like that, and they want their money.
What sort of advice would you give to any budding starters now who just actually think, and again, if they've got talent, they want to put it out there, and what would you advise them? The journey.
I don't know kind of the ins and outs of it, but I think kind of independent record labels or bands like Mogwai. I don't know about now. I think they basically set up their own record label, and then so they're in charge of everything. And I think then they get their distribution through other means. So it's not all kind of like one record label. You're not obeying the man. You're not owing the man any, because a lot of people forget. If you sign to a record label and you get a £250,000 advance, that's what it is.
It's a Prince story, huh? So
it's an advance. You owe that money. And a lot of musicians now, a lot of record contracts now are the 360 contracts, where the record company owns everything, owns everything, owns your music, owns your marketing, owns your t-shirts, you sell at gigs, owns everything. And then they give you a very, very kind of small portion of it because you owe them so much money for them paying for, getting all this
just
stuff.
become a commodity rather than someone.
And it's kind of like, and if you're not having hit single after hit single immediately, they're going to think, oh, we're not getting our money back. We're not going to invest any more money in them because we're not getting any money back. So you're not getting publicised. Your record art isn't get playing on the radio or wherever records get played now, and you dropped, and then they concentrate on the next thing.
I suppose, and also if you're not really reaching for those heights of success, if you could say, and you're self-funding, you could get to a point where actually you're happy with just this, sort of support distribution, just get what you can done out there. Obviously, people got their streaming platforms.
I mean, it's a lot of luck, the Arctic Monkeys did it, didn't they, through MySpace? They kind of got a massive following through MySpace, and I think that's probably one of the ways to do it now for upcoming, bands and singers and stuff like that, is to get a really good,
and I guess,
but online presence that's kind of not owned by anybody, owned by you. You kind of have your own YouTube channel, and but again, it's there's thousands and thousands of bands and musicians got their YouTube channels. It's a massive competition, about how to get noticed, and this is why you get a lot of. So then people have to be more outrageous.
Yeah, and that's the thing I just always feel I can't do, because I can't do what's not authentic to me and how I'm going to do something. And ultimately, you've got to obviously put on a clean jumper, like this fine Nordic attire
nice.
wearing today.
Alpine.
But I mean, what I'm saying is, it takes a lot of thinking time, and actually out of your day of doing so many different things, you've got to wear a lot of hats. So it's like the last thing you want to think about is a TikTok video, jumping around.
I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. There's a band like the Cult. I saw the Cult a year ago, and they seem to be constantly on tour, because that's the only way bands can make money now. Bands like that, unless you're kind of being really pushed and really kind of like, on the top of the roster of a record company, just got to gig your ass off to just make money. I mean, that's why, when COVID happened, a lot of musicians suffered, because you get Spotify, you get the dickhead who owns Spotify, you get paid 0.0001 of a pence for every stream. While they rake in fucking billions, and it is absolutely, and that's a real issue.
Anxiety inducer.
I know. Music is a business, but it's kind of like, it should be run by musicians to promote, to promote healthily musicians with a fair deal. This is why bands have to keep
a full-time job.
Tour, have jobs and tour, because they're not getting paid any money through streams. It's just horrible. It's just a horrible fucking.
Which is why, in a way, I mean, what we're doing, I guess it is, it's not your average way of doing anything that we've set out to do from the beginning, really, because I feel, I mean, lots of people have also thought that we were going to get to a certain point with it, and actually it's not. I love that David Bowie quote, when he talks about when what was it, when he's something about the song it's about the journey that we have in the song, right? We're not setting out with this sort of mindset to do something, and we don't know what it's about half the time. Most artists don't actually know what we're singing about. It's just that's what it all turns out to sound like. We're not playing to sort of pander to anybody. So that's the thing, isn't it? So if we're not doing that, it will take longer, and people just have to get it.
Remember, we talked about this recently. Remember that producer we approached, and he listened to one of our tracks. He goes, "No, you need the chorus to come in much earlier, within 30 seconds, and you need to structure it like this." And it's like, it's like that thing, isn't it? It's like, there's that parable about a guy tending his garden and his neighbours sticking him sticking his head over the fence. He goes, no, you want to plant it like this and do that and do that and do that. And he does it. And in the end, he hasn't got his own garden. He's got his neighbour's garden, and that's the thing with music. It's kind of, and you get that, don't you? Like people are kind of, especially like the Olivia Rodrigos and that, it's kind of like, get that pop formula that works and just make more of it,
Yeah. Well, again, it suits that genre. We don't fit into any specific genre, but I feel, it's saleable, but it's getting it to that point, as you say, if someone else is chipping in and going, well, I think the beat should be this BPM, or it's kind of, well,
yeah, but it's like
it's still not our
it's just opinions, isn't it?
work.
It's a bit like, it's a bit like someone who likes heavy metal advising, someone who's into classical what he should, be listening to, or how classical music should be. It's just an opinion. A good friend told me once, opinions are a lot like arseholes. Everybody's got one. They usually stink. And it's basically, as long as we're happy with our music, then I don't think there's any.
Sure, exactly.
What everybody says is just noise, really.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just getting it to an audible, nicely sort of easy listening kind of stage, and then master it at some point. That's our kind of goal, isn't it? To at least be happy with.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, but it's kind of like, even our demos are great. A lot of them,
Yeah, it's just very simple.
Because it captures the spirit of the demo. It's kind of like, it just like captures that 3 minutes when you were singing or I was playing the guitar, and then you can't recreate that. If it sounds great, and there's one of our songs, Journeys, I think it is. And I remember bringing my 8-track round and you doing the vocal, one of your old flats, and just before, I think before the first chorus or in the first chorus, and you sing one line and you kind of gets very fragile and you stop the words very quickly, and then the next time you don't, and it just sounds great. It sounds great. It just sounds really different, and it works. They both
like a
work.
Happy accident.
And it's going to be exactly. And then but if you went and tried to recreate that again, it just won't work. So
just going back to our imposter syndrome type of stuff, I mean, again, that's been having to be worked on a lot, because I think just doesn't come out of nowhere, does it? It's would you say it's more life situation type of stuff that builds up, and then suddenly it's just like this enormous thing that don't engage with, but obviously it's there. It's like going into a job interview or anything like that, which is super nerve-wracking. It's just, when I go out there on stage and I'm there like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do with my hands?
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot.
You forget some of that stuff, and then
I got a lot. Yeah, I get loads of him. I've always had imposter syndrome. It's kind of like, now I've got that new.
Where do you think it comes from for you?
Just because of just low confidence.
Must have stemmed from something happening that made you feel.
No, I don't think so. I think when I was in the early bands, when we're doing covers, I was fine doing covers because they're other people's songs. When we were in bands writing our own songs, that was fine because it was all a kind of collective. I'd bring in something or someone else would bring in something.
Yeah.
And sorry, the cat's attacking me. And but with our stuff, I've always had kind of like, I listen back to some stuff and I think, oh, that's a fluke. It sounds quite good, but that's a fluke. I don't know how I managed to make that happen. It was a one-off, it's a fluke. Never be able to. I've got imposter syndrome now with that new Gibson 335 I've got, which is a proper guitar. I'm thinking, I'm just not worthy playing guitar like that. Just not worthy playing it. And
I suppose I'm always I'm trying to find out roots of things because I just don't I suppose I don't personally believe it doesn't come from anywhere, but it must have
Yeah, it
roots
must.
in
Yeah, probably.
childhood, or do you know what I mean?
I think it probably comes from. Yeah, I mean, it probably stems from childhood where I kind of like, you know, I was, talked down to a lot, or that's just kind of. So I've never felt worthy, and that feeds into other areas of your life.
Hmm.
You know,
Were you bullied then at school?
not bullied. I was kind of
Not
like,
bullied, but
no, just kind of like,
put
um,
downs and whatever.
I could, yeah. I mean, I was underconfident. I couldn't really stand up for myself much, so I kind of was easily led, and so to be accepted at school, I became the class clown. So that gave people permission to like
Mm,
take the piss out of me,
classic, yeah.
you know, which seemed great to them and everybody, as a clown. But it's horrible, being because people just
Suffering in silence,
and
yeah.
people kind of people kind of people just assume they had a kind of an open season on me. Um, so yeah, it might come from that.
Mm,
I don't know, but yeah, I definitely have it with our stuff because it's mainly because I write the music. It's kind of my stuff, and I think, oh, how did I write that? It sounds all right. It was a real fluke. Never be able to produce something
yeah.
like that again.
And again,
You
it's
know.
real therapy, isn't it, actually, when you think about it? Because whatever we've experienced in the past and you know,
Yeah, yeah.
undergone
I
mentally,
mean,
it's
yeah. I
kind
mean,
of the whole point of doing music is to catharsize, is that the word?
yeah. I mean,
All of those emotions.
I think
Yeah.
I saw a thing with Robbie Williams once, and he had massive imposter syndrome when he sort of went solo because um, he wasn't the songwriter, and now he had to, deliver the goods
Mm.
and stuff. But yeah, you know, if
It's really
everything
interesting.
if everything
Well,
was easy, we'd all be doing it. This is why things are hard. I think to kind
I
of
suppose that's why you have to push yourself, and that's why,
yeah. But I think it's kind of like with our music as well. If I think, oh, you know, it's the reaction we get to our songs as well. Which is generally a positive reaction, and that kind of makes me think actually maybe you
you're
know
doing something right.
only me. I mean, you're a really good singer, and people tell you that. But for me, it's kind of like when people say that's a really good song, I kind of think, well, maybe I am okay at writing music. Maybe,
I
you know,
don't play guitar like that. Like,
you
you
know,
know,
to somebody else
so
it might be screamingly kind of stupid, but for me, it's kind of like, um,
wallpaper.
uh, it's just that kind of like, it's almost like every gig, not so much a song recording and songwriting that, but when we play gigs and that, sometimes it's a kind of like it's almost like proving yourself.
Mm,
Got to prove myself to these people, and but it's great when we play that
yeah.
gig. When we play that gig the other week in Leighton, and first when we played Believers, was that the first song? I think it was.
Mhm.
And the front, the people in the front were kind of really getting into it. Um, then I kind of think, oh, brilliant, and I can relax a bit, thinking excellent. They're
Sure,
kind of
yeah. Of
it's a bit
course,
like
we need
when you
feedback.
finish your first song and you kind of like wait for are people going to
Mm,
react positively, and as soon as they react positively, it's kind of actually freshens off a bit now, and yeah, we are
yeah,
okay,
sure.
you know.
No, definitely. Again, yeah, that imposter syndrome's there pretty much throughout a whole set sometimes for me
I mean,
because
do you have it with your? Do you have it with your?
so many self-questioning type emotions going on. It's like, are you
So
holding the mic right?
what's your imposter
Am I
syndrome then
coming
with,
through
with
okay?
music? What's that about then?
The what?
What's your imposter syndrome with music? What's that? How does that kind of
Yeah, no, that's
surface?
what I mean. On the stage itself. It's this constantly all these voices come in when you're faced with all these lovely people, and that's the thing. It's such a nice experience, isn't it? Because they're actually enjoying what we do, and yeah, the imposter syndrome voices. It's like sort of yeah, it's like
Yeah,
an
yeah,
attack.
yeah.
It's an attack of insecurity because it just sort of says, I don't know, like mostly it's like just me making a mistake. Again, maybe that's from school because I was bullied by my teachers even, you know. I made a lot of mistakes and got rapped on my knuckles for it, you know, so I've always had that, darn it, you know, done it again kind of thing. So I've had to really work hard on that, you know. And actually going through the journey of going through studios and working with various people, because obviously, I mean, we can save that for another video, our actual entry into,
your head candy stuff. Yeah, that's amazing.
So yeah, just remember those thoughts. They would still be there. And actually, again, like you, I do fluky things. I'd sort of be going out of a night, having a crazy evening, and then suddenly turn up, you know, at the studio completely hungover and sort of unprepared, but flukily everything just sailed really smoothly.